Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the St. Luke Legacy Center. We're here at 900 St. James Street, Richmond, Virginia. Um, I have some amazing people on our panel today at our Parents Check In for back to school. So we've been in virtual learning for this month. It's been a whirlwind here at the Legacy Center. We have started our S2S Child Care program with full virtual learning support from one of our panelists, certified scholars. Um, and we've just seen a lot of different um, issues. We've seen a lot of good things. We've seen a lot of, we're figuring it out. We've seen how parents are navigating. We've seen how childcare programs are navigating. And we wanted to check in with you guys to make sure you felt like you're supported and had everything that you needed to be successful for you and your kid this school year. So I want to introduce my panelists. I have Dr. Stitt here. Dr. Stitt is an educator for over 20 years. She has her doctorate in, let me get this right, y'all, curriculum teaching, leadership, and learning. Okay, so she has taught from every level, before pre-K, early education, all the way to higher education. Curriculum development, building schools, building our greatest minds, because she was one of my teachers. So she has a special place in my heart. Um, she was my English teacher back in my sophomore year at Richmond Community High School. So it's amazing to have a full circle moment and be able to do things like this now and actually collaborate and work together. So I'm excited to have you here, Dr. Stitt.
I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
You're welcome. Oh, I'm excited. Okay, so now we have Sienna Samuels, who is one of my business partners, and she joins us here at the St. Luke Legacy Center with her certified scholars. She is one of Richmond's top tutoring services and education services in the city and counties surrounding. She's offering virtual learning support, homeschooling, to some amazing kids. It's dope watching her really build a curriculum and take them on field trips and do things right here within this building while still supporting our kids here, from the spectrum of kindergarten all the way up to high school. So I'm excited to have Tiana here. She has some, insight on what's actually going on here in the city. So thank you, Tiana.
Hey.
All right, and then we have Miss Nikki Shaw, who is representing a New Legacy Family Services. She is the Chief Clinical Officer here at the St. Luke Legacy Center as well. She is a licensed professional counselor and a certified substance abuse counselor, amongst other letters. She is everything mental health, trauma informed. She is go-to for anything clinical. We're speaking about behavioral health, mental health, all of those acronyms, ADD, ADHD, the things that, are labeling our children. She has some, insight and some techniques, some strategies that maybe you could be using at home to help with your children's virtual learning. So I'm excited to hear from her as well. I know that, parents are trying to figure this thing out. So that's why we're all here. Thank you, Nikki.
Thank you.
All right, so we're going to start with Dr. Stitt, and we're going to talk about education as a whole and, the state of learning now in 2020 as things are just changing years.
It's first of all, I want to say thank you, because this is a wonderful opportunity for the exchange of just educational minds, so to speak, scholars in our fields. But as I mean, a lot of my research, and mostly all my research, has been with urban students, particularly Black and Brown students, those that are traditionally marginalized and low-income communities. So I usually focus in whenever there's news or anything that's critical to that particular demographic. I usually hone in on them. And they are in a crisis. And I say crisis because it's crisis schooling right now. is, you've heard, various terms, trauma schooling, crisis schooling. The educational system on the whole is on a decline. We've had a mass exodus of teachers across the nation. Certain school districts. I'm very familiar with New York, and I'm very familiar with Maryland because that's where I am, and I know a little bit about what's happening in Richmond. But like just across and talking to friends and colleagues around the nation, students in rural counties don't have devices, they don't have Wi-Fi. Parents are struggling to juggle their jobs and try to be present for their child or their children. You have parents who are like actually hiring teachers to tutor their children because it's just not happening, and everyone is not a virtual learner. We've been thrust into this environment, and society has not been able to fully rebound and get on track. So there are a lot of bumps that are occurring on the road, and you have students who are just not logging in, so they're missing out. Yeah, I mean, things is that we take for granted. Codes that our students don't get, and they're not logging in on time. They don't wake up on time. I mean, it's across the board, and it's not just in, again, like in big cities. It's not. It's everywhere. So I've been, paying attention to what's happening on Facebook. There was an article that was recently released in the New Yorker, and there was a young man who was featured in the article from Baltimore City, and he just mimics what a lot of other students look like, and what's happening in their world in that particular school district. I'm in Baltimore County, so we've had some issues that students don't have enough devices. Parents have gotten together and started little learning communities or personalized learning communities or learning pods. I mean, you have so many in education, there's so many terms that really mean the same thing. Groups of parents who are concerned about their child's education, that have invested some type of time, money, whatever they can, to make sure that their children are receiving a quality education, not just what is written in the curriculum for the state, but a quality education. The piece, and I just want to touch on this a little bit, the piece that you guys are doing with certified scholars, that experiential learning is critical to everyday survival. These children are not socializing like they used to, or what they're familiar with. So now they've had to kind of recalibrate and adapt to this world where they don't have that interaction. So that outside learning, going on those field trips, I'm an advocate for field trips anyway, but going on field trips and all kind of experiential learning, that develops character, it develops relationships, and it gets, people take it for granted, but it does get your mind thinking, because you're thinking about what's happening in your world, something as simple as climate change, just little things like that. And I applaud you all for taking the initiative to do that in Richmond. It's going to be necessary. I would say this, in the next, I'll go 5 years, but really in the next 2 years, you're going to see a serious decline, and parents are really going to be in a frenzy, and our children are going to be trying to struggle just to stay afloat, more so than they are now.
Yes, all of that is very true. What have you seen in the struggles throughout your time in teaching? Because I know it's been, up and down throughout this time. So how have you seen students, kind of bounce back from the things like this? I mean, we've never seen a global pandemic or virtual learning, but it's been some things that have happened in time that could mirror or mimic this.
Right. Well, a couple of things, and I'll speak from a parent's perspective, and then I'll go into a teacher, because it's a struggle sometimes when you're coming from these different perspectives. As a parent, I have been able to bring the extra oomph, whatever my children needed. Everybody is not that fortunate. That I know. But my students, who are also my children, they have been fortunate enough to have me in a capacity where they were my children, and I did the same thing. I gave them my lunch periods. I, did my prep periods, whatever the case may be, after school. When you have dedicated educators like that, they're not just teachers, but dedicated educators like that who are concerned with everything that has to deal with their students, their children, it makes a big difference. So I have had students in the past that came to me in the 7th grade, and they couldn't read off, only on a third grade level. And I spent time with and got other teachers involved. Listen, I need your class period, physical education. But that's when you're involved. That's the culture of the school. The culture of the school is gone. I don't care how many great videos we put on YouTube and Instagram. It's still the culture of the school is missing. So these kids are not getting that. But again, if teachers are putting in the time, if parents are putting in the time, then our babies can rebound.
Yeah.
From an administrator's perspective, it's tough. It's tough, and you have to put things in place and professional developments and different things in place for your staff. Number one, to feel valued so that they stay. Number two, to make sure that their quality of life and their mental capacity is on point. Because you can't be right if you're not right here. You can't teach our babies. You know what I'm saying? And as an outside in higher ed, I've seen some of the repercussions of that that gap that has taken place throughout history. So again, I'm in that role. Even though I'm teaching college students, I'm still doing stuff that I was doing with my high school and middle school students. Sounds crazy, but sometimes you have to do that. Basic foundational skills, character building, that's gone.
Right.
Just to stretch the time out for math and reading, and of course, as an English teacher, English professor, I'm not demeaning that, but you need those arts. These kids need to get out. They need to have some type of, movement.
Right.
I could go on and on, but that's what I see, and that's how I feel that we will be able to rebound. Parents will have to become more involved. We will have to give that instruction that we need, the extra instruction, the extra time. If you have to hire a tutor or barter somebody, listen, I can make you, a cake or something like that. Maybe you could tutor my child and whatever. But we have to get back to that. I think that element of community is missing.
Right. And I think we talk a lot about the, the negative effects of now being in virtual learning and, not sending them to school and things, but looking at the positive in that as well, when there we have the opportunity to be creative and create spaces like, here at the, S2S here in the St. Luke Legacy Center, in the learning pods and having that community sense now. We have that opportunity. What can you tell people like us and programs and, people that are really creating these spaces now that are trying to fill and create that culture, but aren't schools, what can you tell us?
Number one, the main thing you have to do is tap into your resources in your community and your, learning environment, however you want to put it, and whether it's your good girlfriends or people, your colleagues or something. Someone may have a science degree or someone may know a little bit more about math. Like, tap into those resources so that you're enhancing everything that's happening. You know what I mean? Right. And the other thing is parents, again, you talk about the negative, but the positive part is parents are able to spend more time with their children. I will say this, 24/7, it may be a challenge for many parents, myself included. But when you spend that time, to talk to them, especially the middle and the high school, there's a lot of emphasis on elementary and the pre-K and kindergarten. Right. It's a lot of emphasis there, but the missing piece is the middle and the high school, because we take for granted, oh, they're independent, oh, they can do it. Oh, nah, but it's something happening with them too. There's I have a teacher candidate that I work with. She's working on her certification. And they just had 2 suicides. 2 young men just took their lives because it just got to be too much. And, that's where Nikki comes in. But that part, you have to have those conversations. You have to do the check-in. And sometimes you have to step away. Right. Step away from, listen, I will write, Miss Carter and let her know you're not going to be in class today because you need that time. We take that for granted. And invest, if you have to, invest in a tutoring service. Your program, have things where you're building character, because we talk about global learning. Yeah, well, if we're not nurturing leaders in our school system or in our homes or in our communities, in our neighborhoods, then right. What's going to happen later on? 25 years down the line, this generation is supposed to be the generation of leaders. So if they're not prepared, then what's going to happen? That's just how I look at it. And I hope I answered your question.
You definitely did. I think so. I think you touched on it from the parent perspective, because you have that, angle, as well as the the teacher aspect, the education. Okay. No, so I'm going to let Sienna tap in and speak from her aspect, because she's really in the trenches with the virtual learning and navigating through each of these systems and things. So certified scholars.
Hi, everyone. Okay, so I want to first say to the parents, if your child is logging in every day, pat yourself on the back, because that is the biggest task. It is hard. It is hard to make sure the Wi-Fi is working, make sure your computers are charged. So give yourself some credit, because this is a very overwhelming time for you, your child's teacher as well. I have a few teacher friends who I'm helping get some lesson plans together, and just keep your patience, because they are going from hands-on learning to virtual learning, and it's hard to deliver some of those lessons. It's challenging for your child to get it as well. So if you have a hands-on learner or a visual learner, please be patient with your kids. Remember, math is not the math we had when we were growing up. So it's not foreign to reach out to someone. Use your neighbors. If other kids are in your community, let them sit outside and get their homework done. Let them phone a friend. Call your girlfriends, like Ms. Fitz said, because we're gonna have to tap together to get this done. Also, your patience is necessary. So take a mommy break, take a daddy break. You're gonna need it. It's nothing wrong with it. Do not feel obligated. Do not feel bad about it. Don't beat yourselves up. You have to remember, your kids missed half of the school year last year. So if your child was in the second grade going to third grade is a challenge within itself. If you become an independent learner more than a hands-on learner. So if they missed all of those 4 months from second grade, they don't know what they're going to experience in third grade yet. So be patient. The key word for me today is patient, because it takes a lot of patience. So just keep your dynamics strong and reach out. I have some notes here. So I've received a lot of messages from my parents and past parents who have tutored their children years ago. Navigating through Schoology or whatever system your district is using is hard. It's hard. Turning in work on Google Docs is hard. It's difficult. And it's explained so easily, like you click this, oh, it'll automatically save, oh, the teacher didn't get it, oh, I did this, mom, I know I did it, I don't know why it's blank. If you have a printer, print it out. If you do not, we are using old-fashioned pen and paper here, okay? Write down your problems, show your work. So if your work isn't saved on that Google Doc, you have something to snapshot and send your teacher. Your phone takes pictures and can attach an email. Simple, okay? Teachers are accepting work any way that you can get it to them. So please put forth your effort. Do not give up. If you have to create flashcards, get creative, fold the paper, cut the paper. We don't always have index cards available. We're using markers, we're using crayons. Allow your kids to use whatever they are comfortable with and to get them to engage, okay? This is the time where, like Dr. Stitz said, we are focusing on the foundation. When they go back to school, they are going to need their foundation to adapt to anything else that they will be learning in the future. So we are going to focus on your foundations while we're here. If you can get out, libraries here are open. You can get drive-up services and things like that and pick up, so read. If you have nothing else for your child to do, read to them, or let them read alone and discuss a book over dinner or dessert or before nap time, only because reading is a foundation that we're gonna need for the rest of our lives. And they're going to, if they're not anything else, the strength in reading will take them far. Okay, so please, please, please help your children read. If you have multiple children and you just can't help, get your older kids to help your younger kids. Make your younger kids teach your older kids what they learned in school today. And so they can check. Use them to help each other. That will give you a break. Teachers are being very lenient, so please, please, please email your teachers, call them, ask them how can you help your child. If you are seeing behaviors at home, I've seen a few memes on, Instagram and Facebook where, they said, do you believe your kid's teacher now, about how your child acts in class? So remember those behaviors because they are important. And that's where Nikki will be able to help you. If your child can't sit still for that hour class, maybe they need some other kind of gadgets or tools to help them be able to sit and learn and focus. Socialization. I have a niece who loves to learn. She loves school. She gets up bright and early every day and twists her clothes on and loves going to school. She hates virtual learning. She does not want to go to school anymore. She misses her friends. And it breaks my heart because she's such a great student. But she misses her friends and she misses her teacher. And so when we're phasing back into the school system, whenever it does open, just be mindful of that. Be mindful of the relationships that your children had, the relationships that they will gain. Also be mindful of teaching our kids how to stay distant and clean from each other. It's going to be so hard for us to tell a second grader that she can't hug her best friend when she sees her again, and she hasn't. So please be mindful of that. Please be patient. Please take extra precautions if everything opens back up. So I am a professional tutor. I started tutoring about 5 or 6 years ago. Everyone in my family has been an educator for years. And when I, chose the counseling role, I think they were a little upset with me, but I've kind of reverted back, and so I became a tutor. So I focus on individualized lessons only because when you're in a classroom with 20 kids, it's hard to raise your hand to say, I don't understand. It's hard also for a teacher to carry their lesson to an individual student who's not understanding and the other 19 are. So if we have 1 or 2 kids who are not grasping whatever the teacher's going on the board, that's why I come in, okay? I use a bunch of different tools and resources to break down the lesson. Lessons from counting, even in odd numbers. And we even use claps, we use rhythm, we use music, we use bears. I know y'all seen the infamous bears all on Instagram getting knocked over. We use bears and blocks and everything. And even all the way up to trigonometry and algebra, you have to break it down, and that reverts back to our foundation. So please, 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 if you take 10 minutes to go over multiplication tables with your 6th grader, it will help. It's not a waste of time. Please, please, please do not feel like you're not helping your children. And organization is key. Make sure when you're navigating through your child's laptop or iPad or whatever they're using, before you do anything, log on to the Do Now tab. That's where things are due. And you know what, when you see it, you might be saying, oh, past due. Start there. Make a list and start there. Handle those things first. I just had a student come to me Thursday, and he had a 3rd grader, and he had 2 assignments due Friday at midnight. I remember that in college.
Right.
How do you have 2 assignments due Friday at midnight? And he's like, I don't know what that is. So we're trying to do that. So on Friday, his mom isn't, having to do
at 11 o'clock.
11 o'clock, right. And it's hard. So please, please, please use the services near you. I know a lot of great tutors in Richmond. So we stick together. So if you need services and I can't get to you or you can't get to me, I have 5 other tutors who can help you. And we're all across the area. So I have some in the West End, some in Chesterfield. So please reach out. It doesn't take any time to send an email. I will find someone for you. And like I said, and like Dr. Stitt said, these are our babies. When you bring your child to us, they become ours. For that hour or a couple of hours that they are with us a week, I love them and they love me. And my older kids have my cell phone number where they can call me and say, Miss Samuels, I haven't seen you this year, but I need help with my math homework. Can you help me? And of course, and I'm gonna send them study material to help them after that when we get off the phone, because it is important to build those relationships with our kids right now, because they are feeling alone. And we do not want them to feel alone during this time. It is needed and it is valuable, and we have to stick together.
Yes, and we don't want them to give up either, because it's now so easy to give up at this time. I mean, we talking about that adolescent time frame, those 6th to 12th graders. I mean, they are struggling.
And they're changing within themselves. So just imagine what they aren't putting out and what you aren't seeing, and when they're in their rooms alone and they're on the computer with their teachers. So please talk to our kids,
right,
and give them the help that they need.
Right.
You can definitely bake a cake for me, and you can get some tutoring services. So don't be afraid.
The barter, okay? Yes, right. Bartering is that's it. We have we do have to stick together. Truly,
absolutely.
It takes a village all across the board. Sienna, tell me about homeschooling. So I know, in back to school time, everybody was like saying virtual learning is homeschooling. So speaking to the difference between the two of, I'm at home with my kid and he's enrolled in school and I'm supporting him virtually, in the difference what homeschooling and that is, that whole
aspect. So the difference is virtual learning, the county or the city that you are in is providing the curriculum for your children. So they are lessons that are already prepared, or teachers are preparing lessons, and that is strictly what your child is learning. Homeschooling is a totally different avenue. Your child is learning at home. Your child is not being homeschooled. Homeschool gives you the flexibility to work on life skills in your math, speaking in your English, field trips where you can do a money lesson or a budget. All those different activities are, incorporated in homeschool. And definitely you do see some of those activities in school as well. However, I have 2 homeschool students right now, and we have the flexibility to learn at our own pace. So that's the most important thing for me with these babies, because they are building our foundation, like we said, but it's at their pace. So they'll say, Miss Samuels, this is hard, we gotta slow it down. Versus you're in a classroom with 20 kids, you don't wanna speak up, and your teacher is moving on, and y'all have a test and you fail the test. We can push the test back to next week, because we have the option to review a little more. And so I enjoy homeschooling our kids because it allows me to learn them, pull them into learning, let them engage, let them enjoy learning. They don't hate school anymore. I give them free reign so they are able to speak their minds here. I really believe in that, especially respectably, like long as they stay respectful to each other. And I tutor all ages, but my homeschool kids, one is 3rd grade and one is 6th grade. They have nothing in common. One's a girl, one's a boy. They have nothing in common, but they get along so great that you would never know it.
Yes.
And just the dynamic in the classroom, the dynamic here. And so it allows us to, enjoy and venture out and step away, because not a lot, I see a message down here. Yes, Mrs. Holloway. And so I see a lot of parents trying to do the homeschool thing right now. And if you need some help, reach out. You know, it's not easy. You need some help, reach out. If you don't, and you want to, I see a lot of stuff on Facebook where a lot of parents are homeschooling, they want to get field trips together, or they want to get recesses together. That's amazing. That's amazing how we are coming together. So the difference is, you know, virtual learning and stuff, they're still going to be tested. We don't know if they're going to get do away with the SOLs yet. I'm hoping, I'm crossing my fingers. But if not, they still will be tested. So they are working on that curriculum. But if not, we'll keep going. Okay.
Yeah. Dr. Stitt, I know you have homeschooled your kids as well. So you've kind of played in this space before the pandemic. And you also have, you know, two kids different ages. So you can speak to that as well and kind of give some tips to parents who are trying to, you know, navigate that world.
First off, it's not easy. It is definitely a challenge. It will make you question every fiber of your being. And that's coming from an educator. I kind of, you know, I homeschooled my last two for 2 years, and they were in totally different grades, boy, girl, same situation.
Okay.
Tiana, yes. And I wrote their curriculum to cater to them, right? I had my youngest, he was in second grade, and that was a challenge, but he was more advanced, so I had to go a little bit above and beyond. And so when I created the curriculum, it was more, I knew he liked to move his hands, he liked to manipulate things, he liked to build and stuff. So I implemented like a engineering component. That was math for me. Yeah. I'm not a math teacher, but I knew which resources to tap into. We went to the museum. We did, all kinds of things that we possibly could, because that experiential learning piece is so critical. But the other piece is, again, like Sienna said, the assessments. Every state has a different requirement. The standardized tests, other than, if you're going to be taking the park exam, which that'll be a whole nother conversation. But, when you're homeschooling, you're not held to that standard until they get to high school. When they get to high school, then they're responsible for taking, just like if you had to take a Regents exam or whatever your state mandates for those graduation requirements. But elementary school, it was like smooth sailing. My daughter was more the creative one, so we went to the park. We sketched, and I can't, that's another area that I'm not skilled in, but we took certain areas, we sketched the scenery, we went to watched the dam, and she did like all of those different things. We know our children, right? So we know what speaks to their spirit and what speaks to them and gets their mind going. So that, that's the role that I played. And again, I see a lot of parents like you, Sienna, and they are like, oh, I'm homeschooled. It's a different ball game. Totally different ball game. And you're involved 150%.
Yes. It's a huge responsibility.
Absolutely. And I use the guide. There's a book. It's what every first grader should know, every sixth grader should know. And I use that to kind of help me develop the curriculum and the lessons and stuff that we were doing. Because there are benchmarks that everyone should know at a certain grade level. And being able to keep up with that, along with socializing, getting with those groups that were going to, the park, or they were sledding, or whatever the case may be. All of those things combined, I think, they're my kids. I'm going to say they're good kids anyway, but I think that they're fairly well-rounded as far as that's concerned. And that was critical to the whole homeschooling piece for me.
And so how can parents, and this is a question for both you, Sienna, and Dr. Stitt, but how can parents kind of take those more experiential learning aspects of homeschooling to help support their kids in virtual learning? Everybody, like we said, doesn't have the capacity to be a homeschooler. I mean, I think that's dope. So, when I do have children, you guys are definitely their educators for sure. We'll have our school by then. But, what can they do? What can they take from those things to support and really, make that education even better, in virtual learning?
You want to respond to that, or you want?
You can go ahead.
All right. A lot of the disadvantage that we have is that there are a lot of like the libraries are open, but there are a lot of facilities and agencies that we would use that are not open the way that they used to be open.
Right.
I use the Maryland Historical Society because they have programs, for the kids to go to in areas that I wasn't strong in. Same thing with the aquarium. They have lessons and, activities and stuff that they could do. I think it's just critical to building that whole curriculum, putting everything together, utilize your resources. Again, that is so critical. Not everybody can do it. Granted, not everybody can do it. Khan Academy is another resource that I use that was amazing. I still use it, believe it or not. Duolingo, like there's so many different websites and programs that you can use to kind of supplement what it is that you're doing at home. I would honestly say, since we're stuck in this virtual world, try to use as many virtual programs that you possibly can. Lots of them are free. Khan Academy is free.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of virtual field trips.
Yes, you can. They can visit the Louvre, from your living room. Yes. They can go to San Francisco Zoo, all these wonderful things. And it's still a process, it's still, everybody's still working this through, but there are options out there.
And so in the world of social media today, don't be afraid to start a link on your Facebook page or your Instagram page and ask for help, ask for advice. I've seen a bunch of YouTube videos, of course. However, navigate through those. When you get some time at night, navigate through those. And it's a lot of great teachers out there. It's a lot of us out there that are recording their lessons and that are providing and loading them up. And so be sure to watch them and then send them to your kids. Send them to on their phones. And so have them watch it while they're riding in the car with you. Y'all going to the grocery store, something like that, because that'll give you a little review before you actually teach a lesson, or if your child is struggling with multiplication, there are plenty of multiplication songs. If your child is struggling with learning their ABC, and they are saying LMNOP, and they think that is one letter, because a lot of my kids think that is one letter. Let's not sing that song anymore. There's a lot of different ABC songs out there. There's a lot of different chants out there, so they can learn those letters appropriate. Just please look and learn with your kids, because it is critical. Use your resources. Every parent this day has Instagram if you are of my age, or Facebook if you are of my mom's age. So just use your time and use your friends and help each other, because it is critical for our future. Just imagine 50 years from now when they are voting for the next president like we are, and that child has missed so much. That child is going to grow up to be an adult. So let's get that foundation together.
Yes, I think that's a perfect way to tap Miss Nikki Buchanan, Nikki Shaw in, and she can speak to that foundation from a different aspect, from that social, emotional. The kids are so disconnected now, like we talked about. So let's speak to that and what parents can be doing and looking for.
And so some of the things Dr. Stitt and Sienna kind of touched on. One thing is that kids have been home since March, so they missed half of that school year. And then going into summer, when you're having fun, summer camps, trips, going to stay with cousins and families, guess what? That didn't happen either. Summer vacations, going to Kings Dominion, Busch Gardens, if you're lucky, get to go to Disney World, all that's canceled. Couldn't even do real cookouts. Birthday, I've had kids, they don't think their birthday is real if they can't have a party. Parties, some kids are having smaller celebrations, but not able to celebrate to the caliber that they're accustomed to. Right. So even with having the summer sandwiched in there, kids have literally been in the house. And so I'm glad that y'all touched on that 6th to 12th grade area, because like Dr. Stitt said, I'm so concerned about our kids' mental health. Obviously, I'm concerned about the parents too, because I'm a parent and I get it. They are driving us crazy. I understand. But because like Sienna said, we're in a social media age. So our kids already don't socialize in the same manner that we're accustomed to. So we're used to seeing them on their phones and on the games and in the rooms isolating, but but there are times that they could still socialize in school or socialize with family members and all that. So now all of that stuff is cut off. So what the calls that I get, and when you say, y'all have said, like, reach out to your friends, phone a friend, form groups, I'm the counselor friend that everybody calls and like, Nikki, what, so because I've received a lot of these calls, they're like, they literally don't come out of the room, or I go to sleep, they're on the game. I wake up, they're still on the game, and they're dead to the world when it's time to log in for school. Or by the time, because I'm working from home and I have 3 kids in the house, I can't police who's off of the game and off of their tablet and all of this stuff at what time. So some of the things that I've been working with parents, whether they're clients, my friends, whoever just reaches out to me, is very important. And some of the things that you touched on, as far as the organization, the preparation, designated spaces for school time versus hanging out and chill time, if that makes sense, so that even when they have those breaks during school, it was funny, in the first week I had an old coworker tell me that when her child went on her 15-minute break, she went and got in the bed and was under the covers, and she's like, no, this is not what we know, you're going to be late, but her child was exhausted because she had been up all night making TikTok videos. So again, it's one of those things that just the lack of structure that a lot of kids have had, they're physically and emotionally drained too. And so I think that sometimes us as parents, we have gotten so wrapped up into, we're trying to work from home, or we're trying to figure out who can watch our kids while we actually have to go into the office, and we're trying to do all the day-to-day things to run the household. And you're thinking, okay, your kids in the room like they always are, so they're good. But touching back to some of the things that y'all said, these kids are sad. They want to hug their friends. They want to interact with their friends. So with that being the case, you really have to, Sienna said that her word is patience. For me, mine is observation and monitoring. Those are the things that I just heard, piggybacking off of what Dr. Sis said last week, in the last 2 weeks, we had a kid here in Richmond that committed suicide. And you know why? His mom took his phone, found something inappropriate on his phone, and she did what mom should do. Give me your phone. You're not acting responsibly. And this child, had a meltdown and took his life. So, and again, it's so as a parent, you're like, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do because I'm setting these boundaries and keeping it. But, and again, in a situation like that's where the observation, the monitoring happens, that what was going on in his head, what can be going on in any of your children's head that would make that literally the end of the world. But for some kids, that's all they have. Like in their mind, that's the only connection that they have to the outside world, is that phone, is that tablet. So when parents are, so I've talked to people after that happens. So they're like, Nikki, so what do I do? Do I let them stay up all night and do everything that they want to do and don't put these boundaries in because I'm scared that they're going to do something to themselves? And I'm like, no, absolutely. That's where, when I say that you're observing and monitoring, then there's a follow through. You sit down, you talk, you find out, how are things going in school? Why do you hate them? Is it because you have a different learning style? So this visual stuff isn't working for you. Do we need to get additional resources? Or do you need someone else to talk to get through some of these things that you're feeling? You have kids that are going from, Sienna talked about going from 2nd to 3rd grade. Think about the kids that went from 5th to 6th grade. Or like my nephew went from 8th to 9th grade. So this is a huge trend. This is what kids wait for, to go to the new school. And now he's at home in basketball shorts and his slides, like, this sucks. I'm supposed, he said, Auntie, I'm supposed to be in the marching band. He couldn't wait to be in the band. He can't play, and things like that's very defeating to a lot of kids. But then when their parents ask them, I'm good, I'm fine, just leave me, close the door when you leave. But so even if your kids aren't comfortable with talking to you about how they're feeling, find that favorite auntie or the favorite uncle or the cousin that they look up to and get them to come over and hang out. So I'm not telling you to, to send in a spy, but I mean, definitely a concerned family member that they feel comfortable talking about, because you'd be surprised some of the things that are happening. Something else to pay attention to, because a lot of us as adults, we may know these things, but kids don't realize that, like, even when they're in school on these different meetings, you know, the chat feature works for them just like it works for us. Kids are being bullied on these chats. I'm not sure if you've seen, some of them have been posted. That's the same thing. A lot of cyberbullying goes on when they're playing video games and things like that. So the difference is, if they're in school, they deal with the bullying, but then they come home, they get a break. Or they have friends and family that they can hang out on the weekends, they get a break. Now they're at home 24/7. So they're being bullied in school, then they get off, they play games for a break, and then people are talking negatively to them on the games too. So it's a whole cycle. But a mom with 3 kids could be downstairs saying, okay, he's the quiet one, he's in there relaxing, you know, I can worry about the littles running around and let me get dinner straight. Those are the kids that you do need to check on. Just because they're quiet and you see them as responsible, they're no trouble, they deserve your time and attention too. So I think that is very important for the observation and the monitoring, but then the follow through is the communication. Go sit on the bed. What you doing? You know, even if you don't know anything about video games, Fortnite, moms and dads, y'all need to know some stuff about Fortnite, because this is like your child's whole world. So even if you hate video games and you don't understand it, figure it out. They're begging you for money for it. Talk to them, because what happens if you even show some fake interest in it, they're going to talk to you about that when they're not going to talk about the other things. So figure out, you meeting your children where you are, it'll surprise you that the communication will come. Another thing, as far as trying to balance the mental health aspect of this, is interaction and engagement. I've heard this so many times. I'm working 10-hour days from home. I'm on the computer. We're all stuck in the house together. So we're all together. We're in this together. But what are you doing together? Because, you know, because of the nature of our environment now, everything is go, go, go. Family rarely sits down for dinner on a Wednesday. It's Sunday dinner, it's holidays, it's whatever. But even if you can make that a priority and make that a part of your schedule, even if it's not every day, 2 or 3 times a week, that you come together and sit down and have a meal, or sit down and say, okay, instead of playing the video games or instead of making TikToks and watching YouTube, let's play Uno together and let's laugh. Let me show you Monopoly. And while Monopoly can help, is like the plug for trying to figure out your whole life of how not to be broke, you know? So when you're talking about like that experiential learning, Monopoly was serious in my house, you know? And so kids don't get that. And they're like, even with the whole bank card machine, I'm like, no, you need old school Monopoly. Let them hold some money in their hands. And, you know, kids will complain. They whine and they complain. I don't want to play Scrabble. No, we're going to play Scrabble and you have to spell without using your phone. Make it a challenge. Make it fun. You know, figure out what's the kids pick. If they want a 4 for $4 from Wendy's, or if they want a pizza, okay, if that's what needs to happen to get them to the table, do that. Okay, everybody put your phones down. That includes the parents. You can't tell the kids to put their phones away and you're like this. That doesn't work. So if you want to have their undivided attention, it's very important for you to do the same. Because that's one of the things that I hear from kids all the time. My mom don't pay attention to me. My daddy don't have time for me. You know, and the parents are shocked. They're like, what? I can't believe they would say that. Well, because if I ask a question, I have to mom, because mom's on the phone. Now, mom may be paying bills. Mom could be, you know, we do everything from our phone. Mom could be returning emails. So it's not necessary that she's on Instagram or Facebook. She could be doing important stuff, but the kid sees this. Right. And then they don't understand why she says, I have to get off mine, but she's not off hers. So that's something else to be mindful of, that with these kids, the because I said so of our generation, it doesn't work. So it doesn't work as well with these kids. They want to know why and how come. And the difference is now, growing up, we didn't have CPS. These kids know to call 911, you know, and things like that. Like, those are the things that you have to think through. So even if you when you're having those conversations, some of that, just to take that 5 minutes to explain why I need to take your phone at 10 o'clock, because I need to make sure that you can get a decent night of sleep so that you can log on for your class in the morning, because summertime is over, or because now it's a lot more structured this year as it was when we were trying to figure things out from March to June of last year. Now you get credit for attendance, and you have assignments that have to be due by Friday at midnight. These things are required because you actually get grades now, so instead of give me your phone because I said so. They still may not like what you're saying because they want their phone, but at least they understand why you're saying this is a requirement. Some of the other things that I've heard is feeling like when parents say, they will call and say, I feel like I'm losing my mind. I feel like I'm being tugged in 10 different, places. I'm physically drained. I'm emotionally drained. I already deal with anxiety. I already deal with depression, but I just feel stuck because I don't have that power to do all of these things. So some of the things that, as far as the structure and routine that you set for your household, even though it's extra work, and when some people say they just don't have the energy for it, that extra time and attention to set those boundaries helps you and your children in the long run. So if you have kids that have a hard time being the more responsible ones, they may need to see their schedule up on the refrigerator. They may need to see, these are the things that you can eat throughout the day because I'm not going to the grocery store 3 times a week. So before they go into the pantry or wherever the snacks are, they see that, okay, so if you eat all of the Pop-Tarts, no more Pop-Tarts until next week, don't ask me. And things like that. And so again, when you set those boundaries and you keep them, eventually they know, okay, I'm not going to keep asking mom about that because she keeps referring me to the chart on the refrigerator or the chart that's on the pantry. So they realize that when they do that stuff and they keep that boundary firm, it's a lot of weight off of their shoulders, and then the kids eventually get on board too. So I think that is very important. Another thing, kind of what y'all were saying, talking about having like pods or groups of friends and things like that. Phoning a friend is very important. And so when you have to have that parent time, girl time, father time, if they have cousins and friends, do a play date. Play dates don't stop in elementary school. Middle to high school, if you have friends, a lot of times that's what happens. Friends have kids around the same age. So when you're getting together to do your wine and paint, or if you're trying to have a little cookout to play cards and stuff, take the kids. They talk to each other on their video games. Let them play. When they get together, they sit beside each other with their phones in the circle. But even with it, that is still, for them, that's interaction and engagement. So for some people, they're like, I just need to get away from my kids. But if the majority of your friends have children, bring them too. Put them in a room and let them have some time. And so then it's not that as soon as I leave, I feel pressure because I have to hurry up and go back home. Well, you don't have that much pressure on you because now your children are with you. They're in a safe environment. It's in a small environment. And they're with people that you feel comfortable with them being around. So things like that can help improve and stabilize the mental health of the parents and the kids. So I can talk about this forever. So do y'all have any questions or anything?
I think that's a great way. We have our last 5 minutes. So I did have one last question for you guys, and everybody can kind of tap into this. But as parents are deciding to send their kids back to school, and speaking to that transition of assimilating from, virtual learning, homeschooling, childcare programs back into the school environment, what can you all say to that and to those parents? Who wants to go first?
Go ahead, Dr. Stitt. We can go in order, I guess.
Okay, that's cool.
I was getting ready to say, not everyone speak at once. But personally, my children are not going back. And it's mainly because of, it's a few reasons why. But the safety issues and the lack of a health and safety plan that I feel comfortable with is preventing them from going back. You have teachers that don't have the equipment that they need. Schools are not, they're not restructured so that you can accommodate these changes. not every school, but many schools are not. And we haven't gotten to that point in the county where I am now. And besides the fact that I already had issues with the curriculum and how things were going, I think my children are, besides the socialization aspect, I think that what they're getting on top of the supplements that we're providing at home, I think they're getting a fairly good deal, probably better than what they would. My only issue is the sports, because, you know, my kids are involved in sports. So that has been a challenge, being able to find something. My daughter's able to play soccer, but, you know, they're masked and this and the other. But finding other sports, that has been the challenge for me.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, no, my kids won't be going back. But other parents, you know, you have that option, but just make sure that it's a safe environment and the school is prepared. Administrators have their masks, teachers have their masks, the petitions are up, do what you need to do.
Mm-hmm.
That's just my opinion.
I agree. I don't have kids, but a lot of my parents are saying that their children are not going back, and I definitely support that. What I want parents to know is if your district decides to go back, I know one of the districts here is opening next week, so we'll see how that plays out. But you have options. Do not let them bully you into sending your child back if you are not ready. They are your children. You have to protect them. You brought them into this world. So research your options. And if you don't know, ask somebody. Send an email. We are all available. Ask someone, how do you, if you want to go to homeschool, if you want to continue your virtual learning, you know, you have options. Do not let them think that, oh, school's open back up, I have to send my child back. No, you do not. One of the positives that I wanted to talk about as well was what Nikki said, the bullying. Some kids who were bullied are loving this option. So pay attention to that. So, because some kids are actually like, I don't want to go back. Some kids don't. So some kids are loving this virtual learning. So if your child's one of those children, see if that can continue for your child. Absolutely. It has to be an option. They have to have that. They've introduced it and they cannot just snatch this away. So if you need any support, please let me know. I'm a stickler for writing a letter. I will write a letter in a heartbeat, okay? And so I wanted to say to all of the ladies on here, I think we did an awesome job. I definitely think this was a great thing. I hope you've gotten a lot of information. This was amazing.
Yes. And I think that's a great way to close it out, everyone. You know, I think this was great. We really had a meeting of the minds together. And thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Everyone have a good afternoon.
You too.